welcome to Cinder Midcycle 2, which is in the R8 week as we have planned in the last two Cinder meetings. Uh, and we got a decent amount of topics. So yeah, half of them I added uh, regarding the cycle deadlines and the things important for the next milestones. So let's get started. So first one is regarding this. So I have shared the Etherpad on the Cinder channel if anyone is looking for it. It has all the topics there on line 38. So the first one in the list in the spec reviews is secure RBAC, which is not exactly a feature in this cycle, but still I thought it would be a priority because we have been working on it since past few cycles and it is still important to get the changes in. So regarding that, there was a blueprint registered by Brian.
Yeah, let me give you an update. So I need to get a patch up. Things have been simplified, so I think I explained it in that blueprint, although I can't remember. The only thing I'm still thinking about is the so the admin's going to be what we always had as the admin. There are some, Alan did work last cycle, or maybe the cycle before, to remove the dependency to have a project ID in the URL. So that's been done. The problem is we have some API calls that it makes sense to refer to a project and somewhere it doesn't. So the advice from the Secure RBAC working group is that for admin calls where you absolutely have to have a project token, we should specify that as part of the rule. I was sort of resisting that because once you specify it as part of the rule, the defined rule definition, it can't be overridden by the operator, because you can write check strings that refer to the scope of a token. But if the rule as defined in the code specifically says what scope it applies to, that overrides everything. But the feeling is that if you accept a scoped token for something that requires a project ID to actually complete, then that's bad because you'll get a failure eventually. So anyway, so that's just a complication. So there are two ways to do this. One is, I should just shut up because I'm still thinking about this. But that's basically it. So other than that, I've sort of gotten in my head what we need to do, but I haven't actually done it.
So I have added it to the features list, but milestone 3 is still not the deadline for it. We can do it, complete it till RC1 as well. Won't do any changes.
When is milestone 3?
Milestone 3 is 3 weeks from now, 2nd September.
Yeah, that's coming up soon.
And I think we still have 2 more weeks after that till RC1. 5 weeks. Tops. So let's move on to the next feature. There aren't any feedback or comments on this one. We will follow along with this one. Any Cinder meeting or maybe at Milestone 3. So next one is regarding support of transferring encrypted volumes, which is proposed by Alan. And I took a quick look at that, and I think it looks good. Doesn't have a lot of things changing, but is Alan around?
Excuse me. Yes, I am. Although my webcam just crapped out, so I had to mute video. Yeah, so I'm in the process right now of writing a Cinder Tempest plugin test for transferring encrypted volumes, and I'm encountering an issue that I'm just starting to unravel, having to do with having the Cinder service role have appropriate keystone role assignments. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. This is stuff I've just been uncovering literally this morning. So maybe I should just throw it back to you, Rajat. Did you have a question about things, or you asked if I was around? And yes, I am.
No, I was just following up on the status. I see the patch was looking good. And we also have a client change, I think, right?
No, nothing other than bumping the micro version.
Oh, okay.
Max micro version.
Yeah, I think we are looking good on this one then. Unless anyone has any other questions regarding this.
I think I may want to make some more changes to the patch based on what I've been discovering literally yesterday and today. So I think it can, conceptually proceed, but I don't know if it's quite ready yet. I can give more details if people are interested, but you probably aren't.
So, okay. Yeah, we can discuss this if any doubts come up. Upcoming Cinder meetings, so that won't be an issue. But for now,
Yep.
I think we're making good progress here. Next one is regarding the new quota system. So this has been in the discussions in last cycle, and we finally merged the patch this cycle. And there were some new changes also listed in the spec regarding what we discussed during the Zed PTG about a new quota driver. So we will have two, I think, this one. So Gorka, would you like to provide an update on this? Because I haven't followed along.
Well, I think you have followed along everything I've done, which is nothing right now except the Spec changes, because I don't know how I'm doing it, but every time I look at something, I go down some kind of rabbit hole, and now I'm fighting with native threads and unit tests and whatnot. So I will probably drop that and jump to going back to updating the existing quota patches. So
Yes.
okay, let's see.
We can't hear you now. I don't hear you. For sure about others.
Well, this is what happens when you upgrade your operating system. Nothing works. So, yeah, I'll just write it on IRC.
That gives me less motivation to upgrade.
Gorka, what did you upgrade to, just for knowledge?
Fedora 35.
You didn't do 36?
I'm having enough problems that it is with 35. I have lowered the volume of the input, but this
No, it's nice.
That sounds good.
Oh, it sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
better now because
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
still,
perfect.
this still looks like it saturates the input, and it's 15%, whatever. What I said before about the quota, I got distracted by other stuff. So in the end, I haven't made any progress in the code. So I will probably get back to the quota code next week.
Yeah.
Sorry for the delay.
No worries. Like that was the point of the mid-cycle, to have a check on the features. So we still have 3 weeks, so I think we should be able to get most of the features, and I hope. Yeah, thanks for the update.
Hey, folks, I got a few minutes late. Now we discussed the new features for this release, right? Like the current topic, if I got correctly.
Sorry, I didn't get you, Fernando.
Sorry?
You were asking something I didn't.
Yes, sorry. No, like I was just asking if like we are. I entered like a few minutes late to the meeting, so I like kind of lost track of what's going on. So we are discussing the new features for Zed, right? For this release.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah, we have
so-
like a few features to include. Nain is doing it right now. And I would like to provide a status, but you know, like I'm going to mask the mid-cycle.
Yes. So you can add the feature on the bottom of the Etherpad. So we are just going sequentially, and we are on the third point right now.
Yeah.
Like we just finished with quotas. So
Perfect. Okay, sorry.
So the fourth one is reset state robustification, and I also have seen this feature around since quite some time, but I haven't been actively involved here. So, Vishal, would you like to provide an update on this?
I want further review on this because there were total 5 patches and base patch is already merged, but other remaining 4 don't have any review. If any more work required on that matter, so that's why I put the patch just as a reminder for a review. So we already have a discussion on base patch. I think Eric and Brand, they were both reviewing that.
We have this feature and it requires reviews. So yeah, I think the patches are up to date. Just checking quickly. We don't have any conflicts anywhere. It'd be good if we get some reviews there. Thanks, Tushar. So next one is in Dell EMC Power Max, Unisphere 10 support. I haven't looked at that as well. So it is a Dell specific feature for the Power Max driver. We're adding I'm not very familiar with that. So I think we require reviews here as well. everything is looking good. Unless anyone from Dell would like to add anything to it. I think we are good on that one as well, and we can move on to the NetApp one. So, yeah, Fernando, yeah, go ahead and give a brief about it.
Yep. Okay. Just a sec. Let me get the links here. Just a sec, guys. I lost the tab with the Etherpad again. Okay. One more sec, please. Okay, here. Okay, yeah. Okay, so regarding the yeah, let's just type the others that they're still missing. We have one or NetApp on tap, copy. I forgot the name of the patch, but okay, but it's basically cop offload mechanism for copy offload. I will add the other ones here in a moment, but like the most important for us is the one of the most important for us is of course the development of the change for the ONTAP REST API. Our main focus is to merge it in master. We started a conversation about trying to do about the possibility of possibly backporting it to old features. I think this is something that we could discuss in the future. Our top priority is to have it merged in Zed. So I'm not going to even start a conversation about a backport yet. The focus here is to, although we try to prepare the patches in a way that it would facilitate possible backports. This is this is not what we are trying to achieve right now. Our main idea is to get them in master. So basically, we have I don't know we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 patches related to REST transition. We just to quick explain the status. We have it about yeah, we have it 100% migrated from the old API old ONTAP API model to the REST model. That's the currently up to date and the one that NetApp will continue to support through the years. And yeah, and basically we have all the the base patch with the client stuff, and also all the functions that were part in the client side that we have we have addressed patches for that. We tried separate the patches in different functionalities. So we kind of have for example, revert to snapshot, volume migration, core functionalities. The patches are separate in a way that we think that would help reviewers, since we try to create some clusters of like acknowledgement here. But yeah, but I don't know, like we can discuss later, like if you guys think that we should, like for example, bring all the changes to a single patch, or if we um, should keep this way, like it's something that we can discuss later. But for now, we have like 5 patches for REST transition. We have one patch for a change one blueprint for a change that is related to copy offload. This one I still need to add here. Like I don't have even have the name, but I have we have the blueprint, we have the patch upstream for a while now, and I will include the links for this change as well. And finally, there is one additional blueprint that I need to add that is related to a flag that we would like to include to a volume creation, and this we think this will require a blueprint as well. So yeah, but I will include them here. I need like maybe 5 more minutes to finish that, and yeah, but I think that would be the status for our patches. Our main priority is like a REST transition, as I said, and we have all the patches there with unit tests. People are working to check if there are any gaps in the unit tests that we can fulfill, and yeah, that's it. Too much, probably.
Yeah, so you can write it down, like the main purpose of getting this together in an Etherpad is it will be easier for reviewers to review it, and also we also have the driver feature declaration, so I have to approve all the blueprints. So that was the main goals regarding this, but you can add it after the meeting as well. It's not an issue. And yeah, thanks for describing the main priorities for NetApp.
I will do it right now. Thank you, Roger.
And I see you have the first patch as Manila. So is this needed in the Etherpad? So
sorry, was that a question for me?
yeah, I was just asking the patches you have mentioned. The first one is of Manila on line 27.
Yes. Yes, it's okay. Yes, that was like yeah, we have the same patch for Cinder. Is like we are working on both projects simultaneously. So yeah, that was a mistake. We are going. I'm going to get the right patch. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, no issues. Thank you. So I think that's all the features we have as of now into consideration for the Zed cycle. And please add if there are any features that are not in the list. At least I will be able to use the blueprints and we can target them for milestone 3. Okay, that's all for spec review, I guess. We are looking good on that front. Next topic I had is regarding the Fiber Channel Zone Manager. So I will just give a brief history. So Walter was reviewing the data hole driver, and they hadn't used the Fiber Channel Zone Manager there, and that was a concern that if all our fiber channel drivers are using it or not, which I checked, and luckily all our fiber channel drivers, I think 25 I counted, so they were all doing, using the fiber channel zone manager. So we don't have a similar issue as we had in the data pool. So yeah, just wanted to give a quick update about that. Also, I found out that in the NFS driver, we were reporting the driver volume type as the storage protocol, which was very odd to me because the driver volume type is for the connection is passed to Esprit for connection information, and storage protocol is for scheduler reporting. So I took a deep look and proposed a patch. Maybe it's correct, maybe it's not, but it it introduces a new storage protocol variable to differentiate between the two uh, those drivers.
Rajat, is the patch you mentioned in the Etherpad?
I will just add it.
Okay, thank you.
I have added the patch. Yeah, that's just one thing I found out while looking into all the drivers. That was a brief topic, just wanted to provide an update on that. And the next one is regarding the driver interface class, which we started out in yoga and we made some improvements there. And also during the ZPTG also we discussed the same. And we had quite a few patches proposed via Golka and myself. And so the purpose is not to review them right now. Most of them are in merge conflict, requires update. Two are in a good state, and I think that would be reviewed, the first and the third one. But yeah, I just wanted to bring this up so we don't forget about it, and we can keep working on it to just improve the documentation in our interface class. So yeah, I will surely update the patches that belong to me after the meeting on next week.
Rajat, for some reason I feel attacked. First, you asked me about quota, which I haven't done anything. Now you list a bunch of patches that are in merge conflict. Man, I'm doing nothing right today.
So most of them are by me, so uh, your patches are still in a good state. But yeah, no hurry about this. We can do this. I just wanted this to be as a reminder, like we don't forget about documentation between all the features that we have.
Yeah, I was just joking.
Well, I'm going to pile on you here too, because this first patch needs to go into Cinderlib master, which hasn't been opened for Zed development yet, because I think of CI problem. So we'll.
Yep. The
Yeah,
database
so
changes probably, yeah.
I think so. So we may have to figure out.
Yeah, thank you.
We can't expect you to do everything, right? But we need to figure out some kind of strategy for Cinderlib. But anyway, as long as we're piling on Gorka, I want to do my
Yep. I'll add it to my to-do list. Yeah, sorry.
I'm willing to help if there is anything. I understand the whole Cinderlib gate situation hasn't been quite well since we were planning the Yuga release, so it's been tough. So Brian, can you also leave a vote so that that patch doesn't get merged? I think I pursued it.
I'm
I
sorry,
think
which
it won't get merged.
Oh, right.
The
Okay.
first one, but yeah, we have CI problems, so maybe that won't merge.
Yeah, I can. It looks like my comment on that first one was we should wait till the yoga release, which has happened, I think, right? So I'll take a quick look right after the meeting.
So I think that was on hold since the Xena Cinder release. Uh, but yeah, anyway. So, yeah, I think that was mostly about this one, and I'm done with my topics. Uh, Next one is the Brian, the current CS strategy for Cinder project deliverables.
Okay. Yeah, give me a sec here. Um,
So just at that time, I totally forgot to do the announcement. I shifted them, but I totally missed them out. I think Brian added them. So basically, the first one is regarding an advice on the Zul rejecting. There has been some discussion in the past right about it.
yeah, I put that one on there because I think the email I linked to, Jeremy pointed out that the Zool regular expression that looks at that um, looks for recheck followed by a space. But then he sent an update yesterday saying that that might not be true. But anyway, um, you can
Yeah,
take a look.
he recently said like we should put a poll in there,
Well,
and
it's not that you should, but that you could. But the original person who had posted this was doing recheck colon and then giving a reason, and it wasn't getting picked up. So I'm not sure what's going on. Um, so So the safest thing might just be recheck space and then whatever message you've got. Um, and then the other thing is just the October PTG is going to be 100% virtual, which I guess most people are aware of now, but it was news to me on Monday.
yeah, bad for the ones that were planning to attend, but yeah, it just makes things easier for me. Uh, I was kind of worried about the whole hybrid model of the PTG.
Okay, so talk about the current CI. What I wanted to talk about is really part 4, but parts 1, 2, and 3 are actually kind of important, so we'll have to start there. All right, so the first thing is Monday, we use this thing called Flakegate logging format extension, which is kind of handy, but it was added in Usuri. And so I don't know why I'm giving you this patch. But anyway, so that was an old patch by Sean back in Usuri that added this thing. So we've been using it for a while, and it hadn't been updated until Monday, and then it broke a bunch of stuff. So the good news is that Cinder Client, Brick Cinder Client extension, Cinderlib, and OS Brick don't use it, so they weren't affected. So that's cool. Master's already fixed. We fixed Xena with an emergency commit that I have second thoughts about, so I'd like to replace it with a real fix. My system is going a little unstable, so if I disappear, it'll be a system crash, so sorry. All right, so the real fix, I think, is this one. The emergency fix was just to pin it to the previous version, and that allowed us to unstick the Xena gate, but I think we should probably be more consistent. So actually I should say what these patches are, or this isn't going to make any sense. Okay, so this is Xena. So what this patch does is actually fix the places where it was a problem so that we can still use 0.7.4, because it seems to, it only broke in a few branches. So this way it'll go all the way back. Let's see, so there are patches up for Victoria and for Surrey. I don't have listed here. Oh, a sec. I thought I was organized, I'm sorry. All right, so these are all the, so I'm looking at and typing into the Etherpad, which you can't see. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, I am typing into the Etherpad. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So for Victoria, we've got, and then it's also got a supplementary fix, so that addresses a different issue. Because I couldn't run PEP8 locally, and it turns out I had fixed it in Wallaby and backported to Victoria. So anyway, there's a supplementary patch that isn't strictly speaking necessary. Well, it probably is necessary because otherwise you're not going to be able to run stuff locally right out of the gate. Now, Usuri needs a fix too. So that is, I think it's just a backport.
Brian, if you want, you can just give us the summary and you can write it without the
Yeah, that's a good. All right, let's do that.
of everybody looking at you.
All right. Okay. So Usuri's got the patch to fix the formatting thing. It doesn't need the supplementary thing because there was a thing merged directly to Usuri and Train to address a different issue that actually handles what I've got on line 58 in the Etherpad. So we don't have to worry about that one. And then that gets us to pretty much everything because the thing only starts in Usuri. That was why I mentioned that at the beginning. Okay, cool. Now, so that will take care of Cinder. So the main thing is just, right, Usuri and Victoria gates are broken until we get these merged. All right. Now with OS Brick, it didn't have the issue because we weren't using the logging format extension to Flake 8. But what I note, so when I was looking at that, I noticed there are some changes that have crept in to the most recent, some really recent code in OS Brick that violates this. And I think it's probably because once we have this thing, we don't have to review as carefully with the logging statements because it's being caught automatically. So I've got a patch up that adds that for OS Brick. So I think we should merge it. And I will put that there. So for OS Brick, I think we should start using this thing.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and then that way we're consistent across projects. We don't do a lot of logging in the clients, so I don't think we need to worry about that. I didn't really look at Cinderlib because I think everything's probably fine there, or at least that's my feeling. Okay, and then the other one is the RBD iSCSI client was using this, and it did have one or two things. So I put up a patch for that.
I just saw that one this morning, and it looks like
Yeah,
Zool's not happy with it.
yeah, and I'll explain that in a second. So it's a pretty quick fix. That'll get us pretty systematically coordinated across projects and also get the gates unbroken. Now with the RBD iSCSI client, that patch is failing the Pi 36 job. Now what's going on there is, well, there's a mismatch between the testing template and Tox INI. So the testing template is for Xena, but Tox INI is using master upper constraints. And the big difference is dropping Pi 3.6 support. So what's happening is that upper constraints is using libraries that don't support Python 3.6 basically, and we're trying to run it in Python 3.6. So now the question is, what do we want to do about that? I think what we want to do is short term, just for now, is go ahead and leave the Xena testing template, because Xena still supports Python 3.6, and change Tox INI to use the Xena upper constraints. So that should get the Pi 3.6 job passing. I didn't actually try that yet, but I'll put up a patch. If we agree on this, I'll put up a patch. So I think we should do that and then do a release of RBD iSCSI client. So it would be the last release. So, sorry, RBD iSCSI client's on an independent release model. So it doesn't branch. So that introduces it's introduced a lot of flexibility, but also some complexity too. But the basic thing is that the way we would say, okay, we're not going to support Python 3.6 anymore is not by saying this is the Xena RBD iSCSI client. We would just have to do it with a tagged release. So what I think we need to do here is go ahead and make the change that Pi 3.6 passes. Then we cut a RBD iSCSI client release, so it would be tagged, and then we could move to, using the stuff out of master, which would only support Python 3, whatever we're supporting in Zed. Or we could do something completely different that I haven't thought about yet, if anyone has any ideas. Then there's one other complexity there, but maybe I should stop. I think this is probably a similar thing. I don't know if Luigi's here. He had a conflict.
Yeah.
The reason oh, hi, Luigi. So I guess we're in a similar situation with like the Tempest, the Cinder Tempest plugin, where it's not branched, but we need to sort of tie it to different releases because of the support levels. So I'm not sure. So anyway, so that's the issue. So I think we need to figure something out. Am I being clear on what the situation is? So it's like for CinderLib, we branch, so it's not a problem. We know exactly which upper constraints go with which set of tests, and that's cool. And that gives us demarcations for what you can expect out of each CinderLib release. But with a completely independent release, we have to indicate that by tags. And I think as an OpenStack project, we're required to run unit tests for whatever the supported Pythons are, plus like the release notes and documentation, something like that. So we would still need to run those, even if we don't want to use the testing templates. But anyway, I think as a short-term thing, if we don't want to think too deeply at the moment, I believe I can fix the gate by just changing the Tox INI to use Xena upper constraints, and then Zool is using the Xena template. That should get that passing. That's cool. And then we would do a release because we haven't released from the RBD iSCSI client yet. But we would do a release that still supports Python 3.6, and then do another release that doesn't, But I guess it's sort of, we need Walt's input too, just about who's using this thing and what kind of Python support expectations there are. Although it looks like on PyPy, other projects are dropping Python 3.6 as quickly as possible. So, okay. So anyway, so that's the basic idea there. I'll put up the patch, and if you have second thought to, all right, so let me be clear. So I'll put up the patch that will change the upper constraints to use Xena. I believe that'll get the CI green, and then we can merge it. If you have second thoughts, you can leave a comment. I'll put once I propose the patch, I'll put a link here, the Etherpad. All right, now, oh, yeah, this mismatch problem with the testing template and the upper constraints should be going away soon because the QA team is working on changing the testing template so that it will be branch sensitive, so that we won't have to be changing this every time in Zool.yaml with each release. And that may cause other problems in this particular project, but I don't know.
If we start branching this project, then it won't be too much of a problem. If we still want to continue keeping this as an independent release, then basically you mentioned Tempest. If you check the Tempest is not using the version specific template. It's specifying directly which are the talks, the various talks Py 3.8, Py 3.9, Py 3.10 jobs that needs to be executed, because and those are like the combinations of all the supported Python runtimes for all the versions where Tempest is supported. So that's the other way of solving that. So getting rid of that and manually updating the test Python runtimes. But if the direction is to branch that, that's not needed.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't clear. I don't think they're going to. So the plan is to just make the template so that you can just say, hey, I want to use the OpenStack testing template, and then it will know based on the branch of the patch that's being run which test to do.
Right, but if this is a branchless project, then that's not relevant.
Yeah, right. So that was so. I guess what my point was that so it's not going to be a problem for other projects to have the thing go out of date, like it seems to have happened here. Maybe that was like a completely bad diversion. Okay. All right.
Just for reference, that's the line, the code I was talking about for Tempest, just to make clear what's. Okay. You see that there is the direct list of. There is no version branch specific thing, and there is just a list of the specific runtimes.
All right. So the other thing with the RBD iSCSI client is that we haven't done a release yet, and the reason why not is that we wanted to have a Tempest job running that actually used this thing, which would be, of course, not only cool, but, you know, responsible. So I will put that into the Etherpad. Now, this job is failing, but I don't know why, because I haven't really looked into it. The patch also it used to have some dependencies for support in DevStack and some other stuff, and those have all merged. The links are in the commit message, just in case we need to take a look to make it easy to find that stuff in case there's a problem with one of those things. But we do need to get this fixed, I think, or reconsider our strategy. So the idea was we'd have this thing going, and then we'd cut. So we haven't had a OpenStack release of RBD iSCSI client, So we've been relying on just what Walt had in PyPy before we brought it over to OpenStack. Anyway, so we need a volunteer or somebody who's interested in RBD and iSCSI to try to figure out what's going on with that so we can get it working and then cut the releases. Because, I don't know, Elode showed up in OpenStack Cinder and was wondering about why we hadn't done a release of this thing yet. I don't know that there's a policy that applies to it, but I mean, the expectation is if it's a OpenStack kind of thing, it would be released. Anyway, is there any questions or comments? So we do need somebody to commit to like looking at this thing. And by that I mean somebody who's not me. Look into that. All right, so I can get the other stuff going, but not this Tempest job, is basically what I'm saying. I should put like okay. So that's that. All right, so now the cinderlib CI situation. All right, so cinderlib does branch. Oh yeah, and by the way, I should put in a, let's go. As far as like our deliverables and stuff, I've got a patch up that updates our documentation to explain what stuff Cinder releases and what all the release models are. So please review it. Okay, so cinderlib does branch, and everything was kind of cool until OpenStack dropped Python 3.6 support, and then that opened up a bunch of problems that I think we figured everything out. And so, for people who haven't worked much on cinderlib yet, this is our maintenance strategy. Which unfortunately has a lot of manual stuff in it, so possibly things could be automated if somebody is so inclined. But anyway, we at least have a coherent strategy for what needs to happen. So as far as I can tell, we're okay in, well, so we're not cool in cinderlib and master, but we're cool from yoga. Well, I can't do the alphabet backwards, but we're good back to Victoria. So that's good. Now, we put a note in here. All right, so master is Zed development, but cinderlib's a trailing release, so we get a little bit of time after the coordinated release to continue working on cinderlib. So it's not like there's an emergency there. Now, so we're okay back to Victoria. Now in Usuri, so Usuri is in extended maintenance phase. And so that means we're only obligated to support things on a best effort. If it takes too much trouble, we don't have to, because we don't release from these branches anymore. All right, so the status in Usuri is the cinderlib LVM functional job is broken, and it's like not broken because of Zool configuration, it's broken because of stuff missing in cinderlib. This is not a knock against Gorka. It's just there was a point at which Gorka did some changes, and we said, all right, we'll hold these up because it's too destabilizing for the release. So there's a big break there. And the fixes we need to get the LVM functional job going would require us backporting a bunch of extra stuff too. So I think that's probably not a good idea. So my proposal for Usuri is that we go ahead and remove the LVM functional job, which isn't quite as bad as you'd think. In this sense, we can run the Ceph job that tests the same stuff, although that requires a different although we would remove the LVM functional, we'd have the Ceph functional. So I think that's pretty cool. And then there's a couple other patches hanging out.
And we are unlikely to backport anything anyway. So
yeah, so I think, okay. And then there's two more patches I just want to mention for that. This is for stable cores to pay attention to because this is all in Usuri. So there's the, we can't use CentOS 8 anymore because it doesn't exist. So there's a patch to do that. And then there's the update deprecated Zool syntax because at any minute Zool's stop recognizing something we've got in Zool.yaml. So we do need to get that. So there are 4 patches there. Or we could just do for Usuri what I'm about to propose we do for train. All right, so what am I proposing about train? All right, so with train, yes, I say it all in the commit message for this patch. With train, I think what we're going to have to do is just go to the minimal stuff you're allowed by OpenStack to test in order to not have the branch EOL. And that's basically the unit tests, whatever's in this patch that I'm pointing at that you can't see on line 73 of the Midcycle Etherpad. So what that'll allow us to do is fix the PEP8 job, which is broken for entirely different reasons from the PEP8 job I talked about earlier. That's in train. And then we also have to update the deprecated Zool syntax in train if we're ever going to merge. Well, because at some point that's going to break too when they update Zool. So we got those for train. I should have, anyway. Or the other thing we do is just EOL this thing. Now I think in order to EOL it, we've got to merge some of the stuff just to, be able to have the working CI before the final tag is made. But that's another possibility because we don't have to and it's sort of a Gorka question for just who's using what version. Because we can't release from those branches. They accept
but we
patches.
are also unlikely to release.
Yeah. So maybe we should just go ahead and EOL those branches. So actually, I'm saying that as if, all right, that's going to solve our problems. I guess what it would do is if we decide, so with train, that update on line 73 basically gets rid of all the fancy jobs and leaves the minimal ones that you can still keep a branch open with. We could do that. I could put up a patch to do the same thing to Usuri instead of, fixing it to get the Ceph job running again. That's basically what we need to figure out. I don't know if anyone has any.
Have there been any backports to Usuri and train lately?
No, because we can't backport to them because the CI is broken. But I don't think anyone's
tried either.
Yeah, so we haven't had a demand for it. So I think these patches will fix. They'll fix the. So I guess bring this up because, right, the train gate fix is a fix in the sense that we'll get green CI, but we're not going to be testing as much stuff. So maybe once we hit that, we should really just say, okay, we're going to close this EOL it. And then probably Usuri's not far behind. I mean, we can run the Ceph functional job, so that's good, but, you know, at some point that's going to break
EOL both of them.
All right. So I think okay, so then what we should do, I think we need to merge this stuff just to get everything working again, and then go ahead and EOL Usuri, which I can't spell, and train. All right. So that's good. All right. So we got a action item there. All right. So actions for all stable cores is to review all these freaking things, and let's get them merged. Train. Okay. All right. So that's good. So that takes care of cinderlib. And then next thing is general CI strategy, which I'm not really. So, all right. What I wanted to discuss about this, and I was hoping to be better prepared, but I got sidetracked on this other stuff, is here's the situation. We've got the way we have. Let me just back up. Right. So you're all aware we have this library called OSBrick. We use it for various stuff, and so does Nova. Okay. Now, the way our Cinder tests are set up, the Cinder CI uses the latest released version of OSBrick as allowed in upper constraints. And upper constraints are usually updated automatically on each release of OSBrick. All right. Now, cinderlib, on the other hand, uses the head of Cinder and the head of OSBrick in whatever cinderlib branch we're working with. So what happens with the cinderlib CI is it's not working with the release versions of Brick, it's working with the latest stuff. So that can make it a little more unstable, because if anything bad merges into Brick that breaks something, cinderlib's going to catch it, which is kind of good because it's sort of a canary. But on the other hand, it's cinderlib. It causes a little bit of a problem because when we want to release cinderlib, we've got to check and make sure that everything that's at the head, we basically have to make sure we've got fresh releases of Brick and Cinder, because it's possible that cinderlib could be using something that's merged into Cinder, but that isn't released yet. And the same thing for OSBrick. So one way to deal with that is just, we all have that in our heads and we know to look for it. But then the other thing is with OSBrick, right? OSBrick can merge stuff that breaks things. And we don't find out about it in Cinder until after the release, because that's when we finally consume that Brick change and start doing stuff. And that pretty much sucks too, because, well, as you can imagine, right? Suddenly Cinder's broken and we got to, roll back that Brick release. So that's a general situation. So I don't know. I don't have a proposal or anything. I just want to toss that out there, that we need to think how we want to do this. Because there are reasons, right? The good reason to use the released version of Brick in Cinder is that we've got drivers and other people who are trying to do stuff, and we don't want to have too many moving parts. So at least they're working with the current version of OSBrick. They know their code works with that, and that's good.
Ryan, there's also another problem, that they cannot do a depends on OSBrick patches. So if someone introduces a new OSBrick connector, until we release, we don't have any job that can actually test it. Or if we update, we basically
you can do that. So.
Anyway.
You can do that in a temporary change when you just depends on you add the OpenStack OS brick as the projects in the list of projects, and then you can do that.
Probably we just need to document that.
Yeah, to make sure that you do it if you're.
If you need to do the depends on OS break, you can do it this way until we release it, and at least you're able to check that it works.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is, should we have a job in Cinder that consumes OS brick directly? I guess the problem is we want it to be non-voting, and then nobody's going to pay attention to it, and it's just a waste of resources.
And there's another problem, that which job do we do it with? iSCSI, Fiber Channel, NVMe NFS. We have so many connectors that adding just in one doesn't really add much value.
Okay.
So we had a suggestion for third-party CIs to run on the brick gate. Will it help in this case?
Well, it will help in the sense that, yeah, that should help. Although I'm thinking that something slips through there, but I can't remember what. Yeah, so actually that's another issue is we've hinted that we want to do this. I didn't send anything out to the mailing list yet until we finalize it. But I guess, so the idea was that we want the third-party CIs to also run an OS brick changes so they can pick up some of this stuff. Are we going to require that for Zed, or are we thinking more for A? I think we said for Zed it's a nice to have, and for A,
yeah,
we're sort of thinking it would be mandatory. Is that the way we want to go? I guess if there are any third-party CI people here, how much of a problem would that be to get going for A? Some CIs do run OS brick already, so that's good. All right, I guess the thing to do is let me take the action item to go ahead and send that to the mailing list. Okay. All right, that's basically it then. So everybody please review stuff, and we'll have our gates working again eventually.
And thanks, Bram, for taking a look over all the gate issues all around the Cinder repositories coming under the Cinder project umbrella. A lot of patches there to take a look. Yeah. Not exactly sure. Like, do we require a break? I don't remember if we used to have breaks in Midcycle because it is 2 hours only. But if people would like to have a break for 5 or 10 minutes, then we can do that. And if everyone is feeling fresh, then we can continue.
Yeah, basically the way it's worked in the past is that if I felt like I needed a break, I propose a break. So it's sort of up to you. That was how that was determined.
I can I can see we still have 3 more topics left, so I would not prefer a break, else we'll have to follow up on them. But yeah, yeah, if everyone is up for it, then we can continue. Next topic is RBD Volume Deletion by Eric.
Yeah, pretty quick one here. Just wanted to raise some awareness, get some reviews on this work. This is about fixing cases in the RBD driver where you can't delete Cinder volumes due to dependencies on other RBD images. So there's some new code that breaks snapshot dependency chains and leverages the trash functionality to get volume deletes to succeed. We took a swing at this a release or two ago with the trash stuff, and it helped some cases, but not others. So this is aiming to fill in the rest of the gaps for situations where you still can't delete volumes from the RBD backend when you want to do that in Cinder. I think the patch is in pretty good shape functionality-wise. Alan and I were going back and forth a little bit on documentation style kind of stuff that I may still tweak a little bit, but anybody that's interested in this, definitely take a look at it because I'd like to get it in over the next couple of weeks. Is anybody up for reviewing this? I guess I should ask more directly.
I will review it at the end of this week, but it would be nice if someone else could check it as well.
So is this kind of a feature for RBD? Can we consider it that?
I don't think it's a feature. What it is the RBD driver is currently breaking the Cinder expectations that you should be able to delete volumes. And I don't think that fixing a limitation that was never supposed to be there in the first place really qualifies as a feature. I mean, you can call it one.
Agree.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it one if you want to for risk analysis or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's not really a feature. What it is the driver doesn't work right and it needs to. So, you know.
I will take a look as well if I get some time out from the feature reviews.
It does introduce a new config option, so that will, you know, alert the feature police, but
Yeah, we won't be able to that code, I guess.
Yeah, I want to take a look at this just because I'm interested in the general logic of it, but I'm not an advanced Ceph person, so we do need somebody who could like thoroughly test it, because what we've had in the past is stuff looked pretty good, but then, you know, weird stuff happened. So
yeah, and I'm going to reach out some internally to try to beef up the testing around this. I mean, I've been doing my own, but it's hard because you get different behaviors on different versions of Ceph and different configurations, and it's hard to make sure that you've hit all of them because the gates definitely don't. It's a lot of manual deployment kind of stuff to hit all the different situations. So I'm going to chase that some internally. You know, I tried to spell out the theory of what's going on in the commit message. It is, you know, not super simple. Like there's basically the volume delete process now tries like 4 or 5 different things to figure out what's needed and what will actually work. So certainly welcoming feedback on, you know, documentation, comments, that kind of stuff that would help people just grasp what's going on there. But the hope is that the functionality is in pretty good shape.
And we have another patch that needs reviews. So I think this won't be blocked by the feature freeze we have. So we still have time, but yeah, please take a look at that if anyone is interested in the RBD driver, or even if people can test the functionality, stack deployment, that will also be helpful in this case.
Thanks.
Eric, quick question on the fourth step with his crash move. In what scenario would that be needed? Because if all the child dependencies have been flattened, RBD remove should, in theory, delete it, right? The image.
Step 2 is referring to flattening dependencies that are still visible as clones or snapshots. So there is a situation where it's still needed. Because there are situations where I think you can delete things, and from the RBD user point of view, you don't see them as dependencies, but they're still there on the back end, which means they're not covered in step 2 there.
Okay, I don't know which cases are those, but okay. I mean, because not knowing about that, I'm reading the commit message, and the first 3 steps seems logical, and suddenly the fourth, I kind of have a trouble following why that would be necessary.
All right, well, as I continue sketching out test plans, I guess I'll document when that happens.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be great to fully understand that one.
I'm going to take a look at RBD deletion, but because I'm so new, I don't think I can do all that useful. But I'll look. It looks very interesting and practical. It does something real.
So I would promote you to review it, because maybe some people might forget or get busy with the deadline. So probably any feedback on that. Yeah, certainly some documentation will help understand this better.
All right, so put comments in the review about what you want to know.
Yeah, that's it about the topic. So we can one, which is the generic NFS encryption by Sophia.
Hey, sorry. So, I would like to mention and do a quick update. I'm working on encryption for the generic NFS driver. The main feature was merged last week. So I'm working on bugs reported on Launchpad, and I'm also working on expanding the scope of the current CI NFS job. So as you can see, the CI is not working. Having some issues with Nova while creating instances. Working on that. But yeah, this is just to do a quick update on the encryption NFS status. That's it.
So if I understand correctly, the main feature is merged and we are just following up on some bugs.
Yep. Thanks, Richard.
For providing an update on that. Yeah, please everyone take a look at the patches if anyone is interested in the NFS driver and encryption as well. The last topic is by Fernando. It's regarding the downloading images from guns looks not optimized.
Yes. Yeah, let me get the lines just for you. I'm adding to the other Etherpad right now. It's just like this is more like a technical question. I think this could be brought to the regular meetings or even like to the Cinder channel. But yeah, just to know, like if you guys, I've been working on a specific issue like regarding copying images from Glance to Cinder, like the idea of this, like just let me copy the link before just a second. Yeah, okay, so yeah, basically like I'm considering a situation where we have like is the worst case situation where we need to go and like grab the image from Glance, download the image from Glance, add it to a temporary file, and like then move it back to in like creating a volume from it. So like my question here, and I'm trying to like I'm trying to address is like we have basically I don't think everybody knows that, but like the NetApp NFS driver is a driver that's based on the generic NFS driver. So we shared off most of the functionalities, or like except with like its core from NetApp, like FlexCons and so on. But the most important thing here is that like we when we are in the worst case where we need to like copy images directly from Glance, we are using the same code base. But when we analyze the results from like the performance results from copying from this copy from the Glance repository using like the Python library for that that's described in the second link. Yes, we have like yes, it's basically the copy file object. So when we use the file copy object with the generic NFS driver, we have like a acceptable performance. But when we use it, but when we do this, we go through the same code with like the NetApp driver, we start to get like a very weird behavior with like a very low throughput. And yeah, this like guys, I don't think this is quite tough. Like this is not really a a problem in core code or anything, but I would like to know if you guys already had a situation like that. Like I'm considering that like a yeah, I don't know, like a I will try to be more specific. Like, do you guys have seen a situation where we have like two different drivers, they copy, they use the same copy function. One of them like go just smoothly and do the like acceptable performance. The other basically does not. I believe that might occur because of some like I/O getting is because of I/O getting stale due to green threads or something like that. But you know,
Fernando,
like yes, go ahead.
one quick
Sorry.
question, because I don't know if I got lost. So from your driver, you are using basically a lot of the base stuff in. You are calling fetch, or are you calling download that doesn't have good performance for you? Which of the two methods, fetch or download?
We call fetch, that will call download, right? So
okay, so you're calling fetch, and in your case, it's not being as performant as the base one.
Yes, yeah, like yes, exactly. Like you know, like we the problem I have is that like we currently have the generic NFS driver that will call the exactly same image utils function. And in the same path, it's going to call fetch, then it's going to call like the download, and it's going to use the copy object to do what it's supposed to do, and like a performance is just okay. But when the NFS driver, the NetApp NFS driver goes through the exactly same code, because they share the same code base. And this is basically core code. This is when everything went wrong. You have no way to optimize the glance copy, and you need to just go directly and copy through host. And yes, and you get this, and like you get a big difference between the drivers, but they are like sharing the same host. They are sharing the same network infrastructure. So I can only imagine that this is really related to like looping calls, interrupting, also looping calls, interrupting like an I/O or something like that.
Well,
I'm clear? I don't know. Like.
Yeah. Well, it could be related, like you said, to green threads and native threads, because if I were you, I would try to compare where it is being called in the generic code, the arguments, if they are the same or not. For example, for the path that it's provided,
okay.
If the paths are different, then that one is used to open a file, and then it is used to wrap with a native thread proxy. So if you're already running in a native thread, that could be problematic, I think. Yeah, I could. That's something that needs to be debugged, because I haven't heard of that before. That a specific problem where calling the same method with similar parameters suddenly doesn't work as it should. So I could say either you're passing a different path, and for some reason the performance is worse, or there is the fetch is being called from a native thread.
Okay.
Because I understand the test you're doing is you do it with a NetApp driver. It gives you bad performance or lower performance, You
Yes.
try it, the same NFS with the vanilla one, and it gives better performance, right?
Yeah. Same host, same controller, same configuration, same everything. Like just running the core code. So no NetApp specific changes are made here. And yes, and basically it's just an NFS mount point. And yeah, and the results are
NFS
completely
options,
different.
same
Sorry,
mountain,
go ahead.
NFS mountain. Yeah, same NFS mountain options.
Yes, I believe so. And I have it here. I will double check, but I did it like it's using the same version and same options as well. I think I tend to during our investigation we identified that looks like there is some kind of like 5 seconds gaps, like the IO is continuously getting interrupted. We have there is a peak of IO, then we have like a 5 seconds delay where the connection is totally stale. Then we get like another peak, and so but if you just and we are going, we have the situation only with the NetApp driver. So and basically what there is more than like 100 pauses during like a regular image copy, and we see like a IO getting interrupted all the time, and this looks like something really related to Python threading model, like to the not Python threading model specifically, but
Okay.
to yeah.
It could be also that something in your driver is blocking the green thread for those 5 seconds. So another thing you can do is in between bursts of IO that you see, hey, it's not reading, what is going on? Try to get the Guru meditation reports to see where the green threads are, what they are doing, basically. Because one of them may be blocking, doing some compression, doing some C library calls, doing some IO without a native thread, something that blocks for that period of time and prevents the green thread of the fetch from doing its thing. So, as you know, with green threads, what we are basically doing is now you run, and when a green thread starts running, and when it does IO or some operations, it switches to a different green thread. But if a green thread calls low-level C code libraries that cannot be monkey patch, they will not switch. So they are stuck there, and the other green threads starve. So that is what I could do. Look to see if there is a green thread that it's getting stuck at one or multiple green threads, or a loop. It can also be a loop, because if you have a loop that calls a C library or something like that, the call to the C library will block, and when you go back to the loop, it will not switch to another green thread because there is no IO. So it will again call the C library, again go back. So you may have a loop that does not have the possibility of switching to another green thread.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's some like good guidance, like I think I have like a more to investigate. Yeah.
If you want to do a nasty kind of test, copy the fetch method, call a different fetch method which has the exact same code, replace the tpool.proxy, remove it from the image file, and just call the whole method in tpool.execute. You have your fetch, my fetch, whatever. It's the same code, but you replace remove tpool.proxy, you remove it altogether in your my fetch. And then when you call in your driver fetch, call it using tpool.execute. so that the whole fetch is in a native thread. And
okay.
see if
Yeah.
that helps.
Yes, I will do that. Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, let me note it. Yeah, I will forget in a minute. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really great. Yeah, I will do that and check like the results.
Yeah, you may need to use an Oslo log patch that I have to prevent deadlocking in Oslo logs in native threads. But if you're running a single operation in your test, it should be okay. Yeah, I will try to write it in the Etherpad, the explanation.
Okay, yeah, please. that would help. Yes, but thank you very much, Gorka. I think this is going to really help. I like something that I see that's pretty different is that like we use looping calls in our driver, and there are just a few drivers that actually make use of it. We use looping calls for basically we have maybe 5 or 6 tasks that runs periodically with looping calls, Oslo looping calls, and I don't know if this kind of like contributes to that in any way. So because we are basically adding more green tests to the system. So
you can try logging in those, mark the entry and exit in those looping calls to see if those are the 5 seconds that you're losing between IOs.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I will do that. I will do that as well. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to like hold the call anymore. So thank you very much, Gorka. That helped a lot.
Also, this was the last topic for our today's agenda. So, anyone have anything else? The Midcycle.
Yes. Can I get some help reviewing some of my scheduler patches and fixes? They've been sitting around yet again for a long time. I know everybody's super busy and whatnot, but I have several critical fixes for the scheduler and tracking of the allocated capacity. For especially during migrations, I have all this stuff running in production and have been for several months now. So if anybody's afraid of merging a patch with the scheduler, which I can understand is kind of scary, but I've been actually running these. So
I will take a look at that for sure. Like I'm quite interested. I had a few issues with like a allocation in scheduler a few like some time ago. So yeah, I will take a look at your patch and review it. I just would like to make a quick question. I'm not sure like if I just like I didn't see the code yet. So like, but do you think it's going to help? What the changes you made are going to like change in any way the behaviors we have with having multiple Cinder volumes running concurrently and reporting allocation pools to the scheduler. Like currently we have like a pretty messed up just situation when we do that because they try to report their own allocation pools and we don't have a single source of truth. Does your change like make any kind of change in that way, or it's just
no? It's not going to help that situation at all. But it will fix some issues that come up when pools get low on available space. Potentially, there are cases where certain pools can get over-provisioned even with thick provisioning enabled. With no thin provisioning, I was running into problems with that. And this does a better job of tracking and breaking down all the components of what the capacity filter uses for determining the several stages of the capacity factors that I call them capacity factors, because there's many different inputs that go into determining whether a particular volume can land on a particular data store or not. And free capacity is just one of them. There's the thin versus thick, there's the reserve percentage, there's what the driver is reporting as what's free, and also what Cinder is tracking as what it thinks that is allocated against it. So there's several formulas that are built based upon all of that data, and I actually break all of that down into a dictionary so that way it's repeatable and consistent, because there were several places within the scheduler that was calculating those same factors in a different way and coming up with different values. And so my patches kind of centralize it and break it out into the outcomes of each steps of those specific formulas, so that way you can actually look at it and see what it's actually doing. And I have follow-up patches which actually report that breakdown as well to the API. So someone as me, as an administrator, who's someone who is constantly watching what is going on with the deployments of Cinder, which I have like 18 or 19 of them around the world, I have to be very sure that I'm not over allocating things and getting into a situation where I'm actually going to be in big trouble because I've over allocated even thick provision stuff. So that's what's behind all of this work that's been in there for a while. And in the process of doing that algorithm and that breakdown, I discovered that Cinder wasn't doing a very good job at all of tracking what it has allocated against specific pools. Like when you migrate a volume from one pool to another, it didn't even update its allocated capacity for either of those two pools. And so that's all in there as well. So that's the nature of these fixes that I'm asking for. I think I have a +2 on one of them from Jay. I just need the rest of them to get in.
Okay, cool, great. Yeah, I will take a look.
Yeah,
Can
thank
you
you.
also add your patches on the Etherpad so it will be a bit easier for people to take a quick look at them? Is there a series or?
I think they are a series. I'll add them to the Etherpad.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Okay. Do you need any assistance with like testing or something like that? I don't know, like if you would like to see if it tested in other
Sure.
volume drivers. Not sure if that makes sense.
Sure, it can always help to add more testing. What I'm developing against is the VMware driver, which does a lot of very bizarre things, such as when you allocate a volume, it actually doesn't do anything in the back end. It just lazy creates it until it doesn't actually allocate space on the back end until you do an attachment of that volume. So that creates a whole slew of problems which helped expose some of the failures of the scheduler, and my patches actually fix some of those problems too. And but yeah.
Okay.
As a side note to another feature that I've kind of asked for and talked about in the past, I don't know if we want to talk about this today or not, but the migrate on extend. A coworker of mine just finished developing it, and we've been testing it, and I'm about to merge that and push that into production too.
Sorry, which feature?
Migrate on extend failure. So your pool that the current volume exists, a customer is asked to extend it. Currently, Cinder will just fail, and the customer can't do anything because they'll have to file a ticket, and then the administrator has to migrate the volume. So we added the ability to automatically try and migrate that volume when the extend fails, and that's actually working, and it's kind of slick.
Do you have any kind of throttling limitation or concurrency, or do you just, if there happens to be a bunch of them that are happening at the same time, you may end up doing 20 migration concurrently? Or
so from the Cinder API, there's no throttling. And we're lucky, not so lucky, depending on how you look at it, that VMware itself does throttling on migrations. It only allows a certain number of them on each vCenter. So it queues them up. And since we already wrote this in such a way that we know it could take a very long time, so it's asynchronous, we don't really care. So the back end, the VMware itself does the queuing and all that, and so it'll eventually get done. But if we have, 10 terabyte volumes that need to be extended and migrated, yes, that could take for freaking ever, freaking all of them to be done, but it will eventually work.
And how do you notify the user about the long time that it's going to take?
It's just the standard migration status, and it accepts the extend. It makes that asynchronous, and then they just have to wait for it to finish. There's the volume status and the migration status fields.
Okay, so the user has to know that a migration may happen, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So it may take a long time. It just depends on many, many factors, but a lot of which is the size of their volume that they're asking to extend, especially if it needs to migrate. And then if it does need to migrate, if it's queued, if it's not queued, depending upon how busy the ESXi servers are with doing other stuff as well. So there's a lot of factors built into it, but customers are dying for this to be put into place, because every time they want to extend a volume, even just by a few gigabytes, sometimes they have to go through this whole ticketing process, that's not very cloudy.
Yep, from a cloud perspective, this is definitely a nice to have feature.
Yeah.
From a developer perspective, it is scary what can happen, because you can have, suddenly you have a storage that is quite full, suddenly 10 people want to extend, and now you're moving all the volumes outside, and maybe you are filling some other location in. But yeah, it is a cloud. It is what you would expect for a cloud.
Yes. Definitely. One of the limitations that's built into it is it won't allow it to migrate to a different backend. The scheduler will only try and pick a pool in the same backend.
Okay.
Because we don't want it moving to a completely different storage system in that case, because that obviously could cause all kinds of other problems with attachments and whatnot, and whatever. So if it stays in the same back end, we figured that was pretty safe to do. And if there's no space, then there's no space. That's a totally different problem.
Yeah, and hopefully it will be able to do an optimized migration in that case, because it's the same backend and all that. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can point you to the patch if you want to see it. All of our patches are obviously open source and our own fork of Cinder, which is still based on Train.
Yeah, I think if I have time, I will look first at your scheduler patches before looking at the other one.
Okay. There's so many things like this that it seems like very basic cloud stuff, but it's not in Cinder. And like the other thing that I've kind of been wanting to have is that what's my live view of what Cinder's doing right now, kind of stuff. And we just can't do that currently.
Yep, that and I'm also thinking about what the Cinder volume status really is. Not up, down, which doesn't mean much because that only means that it has access to a database. You don't know if it has access to the storage array, to RabbitMQ.
Right.
You know nothing about it, mostly.
Yeah. Yep.
There are a couple of things that definitely need improvement.
Yeah, we mitigate that somewhat by doing a lot of alerting on exceptions that we tail the log. We capture all of the logs and we look for exceptions that are abnormal, if you will, and then we have alerts in Slack channels and people get alerted when something bad looks like it's happening, like if the database goes down or RabbitMQ goes down, so that it's not ideal, but it is a mechanism, and it seems to be okay so far. But it would be nice if Cinder had proper instrumentation and status and a live view of what's going on. But that's getting that in is a huge feature, but a much needed one, I think.
Yep, because some of the issues I've seen is RabbitMQ is up and running, Nova has no problem, but suddenly the volume service does not get requests because that queue is broken in RabbitMQ, whatever. You just don't receive requests, and everything is on an ing status, deleting, creating, nothing goes anywhere. And it's crazy trying to figure out what's going on in those cases.
Yeah, I created a couple helper utilities that I can actually watch all of the statuses in a quote unquote live manner just by querying the database over and over again in kind of real time to see all of the different volume states that are happening, like going into creating and then deleting or attaching and then attached or in use, and it keeps counts of all that stuff so I could see that it's actually working. But I want a better mechanism that also includes other stuff, like when you migrate a volume, there's or just like generic actions from the API perspective. I want to migrate a volume, but it has to go through the scheduler first, and then it has to go to the volume manager, and that kind of detail. But that's a much bigger issue, I think. But from an operator standpoint, that stuff is incredibly invaluable to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing attention to that. I think we also had a spec for that merge, so there is some documentation already in there regarding the part of it.
Yeah, we Gorka and I started talking about ideas around that, but it's nowhere near a fleshed out spec whatsoever. But we need to, at some point, it would be nice to brainstorm on how to actually make some of this doable and usable. Because I looked at the current table that Gorka has in place for, I forget what it's called, but it's not sufficient for doing really what Cinder needs or as an operator needs. To keep track of what Cinder's doing, so I know whether it's safe to bounce and safe to shut down, because I do upgrades and fixes all the time, and every time I do that, I do a roll of the Kubernetes pods, and I'm like, well, let's just hope there's no migration going on or some backup going on, which are long-running operations, because if you stop those, that's it, you're dead in the water. And then I have to go back through and clean all that stuff up later, and that stuff adds up over the course of a couple weeks and months and years, and I have a lot of volume state inconsistencies that are created from this.
Yeah, I think we looked into splitting it into two tables. I don't remember the specifics, but I think part of everything we needed could be done with the workers table, but we would need a different one because you also wanted to have kind of historical data or something like that, if I remember correctly. And that definitely was not the purpose of the workers table, which was meant to be kept small and only what's currently going on. But I think part of it, of the what's going on, could be done with a table, and then we would need the other one to see how things have gone and everything. Yep.
Yeah, the historical stuff, it would be a very short-lived data-wise table. So I think it could be big, but we would get that cleaned up, every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. But the point of that table is for me to be able to do some historical analysis. Okay, why is this volume stuck in attaching state? Because it's been there for like a week, and where did it end? And going through the logs does sometimes help, because we do log everything, and then I can do searches based upon the global request ID. But that request ID should also be in the Cinder table, so I can align everything up with what internal Cinder actions were being taken, as well as what is actually being logged. And that would help me immensely try and figure out why some of these volume attachment inconsistencies happen, because we have a team of like 2 or 3 people dealing with that on a daily basis. It's so bad. And a lot of it has to do with Nova failures, some's RabbitMQ failures, some is Cinder migration failures. There's a ton of different reasons for them, but sometimes they're very, very difficult to really pin down why a particular migration has failed or attachment has failed or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely a way to answer how did we get here is always useful, because whenever I get customer logs and I have to try to figure out, did this volume get migrated before? Was it a log migration? Did this happen? That happened? All the information in theory is in the logs. Good luck figuring out.
Yeah, good luck figuring it out. Times 1,000 every week. And that's the problem that I have and my team has. It's non-trivial, and it would be nice if we had some of these states tracked in the database, because then we could write tools to help extract those states, to help give us an idea of, okay, this tool thinks this might have been the problem, and then you can go target your research on that particular area and save ourselves time. Or some of the tools that we've written in the past have helped automatically resolved some of those inconsistencies. If we know a particular thing has happened, that it's easily, well, every time you see this, you just reset the state and try and reattach, because the pod bounced or whatnot. Managing and operating Cinder is as difficult as writing a driver, if not more, on a daily basis.
Yeah, let's see if we can improve the operator's life. Oh, your life.
Yeah. I would appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, that would be beautiful to work on. We are way past, not way past, but for some minutes over time. The mid-cycle timings, but if any final comments or thoughts?
Walter, add the tip of the patch to the other pen, please.
Oh, Pete, you're talking about the scheduler patches, right? The changes.
Yes, that's right. The scheduler. We talked about this a while back, but it still was not done.
Yeah, I'll add them straight away.
Okay, then. Thanks everyone for joining. I will just stop the recording.